Hey guys, what is up? Lord Nick here, bringing you another League of Legends related video.
Now
In this
where did
video,
I leave
I want
my
to talk
rules?
about the basics of jungle pathing. Um, it was requested after my last podcast that I do a video about this, and so I'm going to go over generalized jungle pathing. This is not going to be a specifics video, as specifics would be to each individual champion, because your pathing in the jungle will change based off of every champion you play. Now, the generalized ones is kind of the optimized routes for those that are not as experienced with jungle or those that are just kind of learning to pick it up. This is going to
Trees
be routes that
love
are best
tickling each
chosen
other's
for those
branches.
style of champions. Now, the two generalized groups of junglers are going to be between Talisman and Machete Start junglers. And the big difference between the two is Machete junglers like to do a lot of on-hit, and they attack a lot, which means that they're going to be gaining more health per auto. So a lot of AD junglers will take Machete, opposed to Talisman, which says
Animals have
every
more to
spell will
offer
start
than
gaining you
long
hit points,
health and
30 to be
ease.
exact, over 5 seconds, back every time you hit something with a spell. Which means if you have an AoE thing, you can hit multiple with it, which means, more AoE means you're going to want to go for Machete, or you're going to go Talisman over Machete because you're going to gain more life off of it. Now, when you're looking at the clear, for an inexperienced jungle, I recommend sticking to whatever camp your bot side is
Hurry
at
like a
to start,
snail, and
because
you
it's going
will
to allow you
never
to
get
take less damage, get more damage on the creep to start, and it allows you to then go through your clear a little easier. But if you're a bit more experienced, go to whichever camp is more beneficial for you. In case, like, I'm on Ivern, most Ivern players love to start at the opposite side of the map that their opposing jungle is. So they like to try to get as much information as they can on their opposing jungle early so that they can start at one of their camps, put their little, you know, put your little
You know
circle
me,
here, your
Raptor.
friend of the forest around them. And while that's ticking up, because I'm level 18, it goes almost instantly. But while that's ticking up, you then move over to their side, put it around there, and then you can smite it as soon as that friend of the forest is around it, and you'll get it instantly. And
I
about by the
wonder
time you
what
come back, it will
adventure
be very
today
close for
has in
this one to
store
be
for
going
all
off.
of us.
But that's a kind of more that's an Ivern specific mechanic, and that's what I mean by more specific
Where did
pathings
you
will
Raptors get
change.
all this
But for
gold?
general pathing, if you are a Machete jungler, what you want to do is usually, now especially because Scuttles spawn later, you're going to want to start at either your red or your blue, and then you move to the opposite buff. My recommendation is to start red and move to blue. The reason why is then you can pick up Gromp right after, or else you'll be doing blue and then Gromp and then red. And the reason you want to avoid that is it gives them time to come in and take your red. Most people won't come in and steal an early Gromp, but they will steal an early buff if they can find it. So to protect yourself, usually start at your
Everything
red,
is
move to
connected
your
in
blue,
the
and to your
strangest
Gromp right
ways.
after. Now you do have to be wary because that is a known path for most Machete junglers. More experienced junglers might try to invade you while you're at your blue, and if you've already taken a lot of damage, it could cause you to be forced off of that buff. But just for the basics, that's the route you want to go. And then after that, you go into your Scuttle Crabs, and you can take a back off of that. You then usually be able to get to your upgraded item or one of your damage items that you might need based off of your champion, and you can come back and clear the other camps, as you take too much damage off of your first item to try to clear them currently. Now, before you back, you could also try for an early gank, because most Machete junglers right now are actually very good at early ganks. So that is kind of determined by where your lanes are placing. If you have your top lane, for instance, is pushed into here, you might want to try to push your gank here after you clear your blue and your Gromp to help force them off so that your top lane could get some farm back. Same thing goes for any of the other lanes. Now, if you were up at finishing on your top side and your bot side's getting pushed in, I recommend taking your back before. One, it's just going to be faster either way. Just back and head back to base and then walk through lane. Two, at this time, they'll usually be expecting a gank, so either Tribush or River might be warded, in which that's not optimum ganking spot. So if you come from lane, your lane could start pushing out, you follow in from behind them, and they're able to try to optimize on a gank there. Maybe force some flashes and get them some positioning back. Now, that is kind of the route for Machete-based jungler. If we're talking about a Talisman one, this one differs a little bit. And the reason why is that Talisman are much better at clearing these multi-minion camps, but they frickin' suck at Gromp. So avoid Gromp with all costs. And the big reason is is because you heal off of your abilities. The more things you hit with your abilities, the more you heal. So it's better to go after these multi-minion camps. So like Gragas, Sejuani, Amumu, anybody that hits multiple with tons of AoE are better at like chickens or at wolves or even sometimes the Krugs. Though I would state that Krugs early on are hard for any type of jungle, and unless you are ahead in all of your lanes and you have vision and you know roughly where the enemy jungler is, I'd say avoid your first Krugs. Maybe come back to them a little later, or if you know that if you are ahead in all your lanes and you don't need to put a lot of pressure on the map, you can go and clear them during your first back and then back. But for Talisman, usually go to that first buff that you're going to have your teammates help you at, because you're not going to do as well of clearing with just you and one other person. And then you can either go to whichever is closest, chickens or your wolves, and then you want to go to the other buff. And at this point, after you finish that other buff, the scuttles should be spawning, and usually at that point you could try for the scuttle. You should still be healthy enough that you can do it, and you should be able to still have your smite and be able to do that. Try to save your smite for the scuttle if you can. If you are getting too low, then feel free to use it on the buff. At that point, try to get the scuttle. If your opposing jungler comes to try to attack you while you're doing it, you might want to consider giving it up. Early scuttles are not worth a kill, and if you have, in solo queue specifically, it's going to be a lot harder to get pressure coming from your bot or your mid lane to help you out. So if they are not coming to help you out or your top, wherever you are for your scuttle, then just kind of back off, give it to them, and go back to clearing the rest of your jungle. And that's it, guys. That's the simple pathing for Talisman junglers and Machete junglers. There's no real big secret behind how you're supposed to path and stuff like that. It's pretty simple. You go from your first buff, if you're Machete, to hopefully to your Gromp and your blue. And if you are a Talisman, you want to hit most of these multi-minion camps because you're going to heal up off of them the most. As for ganking and pathing, you just kind of have to read the map. There is no general guide for that, unfortunately. It's going to be based off of a game-by-game situation. If they're extremely pushed up, you could try to go through here in mid, but for most cases, I say avoid that. If you can, when you're ganking mid, try to go all the way around them and come up from behind them on either of these sides and get a gank off. And other than that, that's the simple pathing for junglers, guys. And if you know these simple pathings, you can also know that other people will also probably know these, in which you can try to use this to your benefit and get knowledge on the enemy jungler and try to counter gank them, knowing now that you know how, if you know how it works, you should know where they should optimally be. If they're not optimally taking their stuff, you can abuse them by taking it yourself. Hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit. Thank you guys again for watching my videos, and have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day.